Hello everyone, welcome to Sailor School. In this video, I'll be explaining about part 2 under Polar Code. Part 2A deals with pollution prevention measures and part 2B is also there. They are nothing but additional guidelines which will help you understand the part 2A. Now moving on to the contents in detail. Chapter 1, Prevention of Pollution by Oil. Discharge of oil or oily mixtures from ship into polar waters are strictly prohibited, whereas discharge of clean or segregated ballast is not prohibited. The ship must also have oil record book, SOP plan as required by the Marpol Annex 1. Now this is for you to make a note of. There are some structural requirements which you need to understand. So I have tabulated these sentences present in Polar Code for your better understanding. For category A and B ships which are constructed on or after 1st Jan 2017, consider this as one common statement. This common statement plus with an average oil fuel capacity of less than 600 metric cube, then all fuel tanks should be separated by an outer shell having a gap of not less than 760 mm from the tank shell. Consider the common statement again, and if you consider similarly for any ships other than oil tankers, all cargo tanks constructed and used to carry oil shall be separated from outer shell by a gap of 760 mm at least. Similarly, again there is a variation. Consider this common statement again, plus if it is for oil tankers having a capacity of less than 5000 tons dead weight, the entire cargo tank must be protected in this case. Okay, means of protection includes double bottom tanks, wing tanks or spaces. Both these must be constructed as per Marpol Annex 1. All oily residue tanks or sludge tanks, oily bilge water holds must also have an outer shell with gap being 760 mm or more. So this is the constructional requirement which is added for ships sailing in polar waters. Chapter 2, Control of Pollution by Noxious Liquid Substances. In this chapter there are only operational requirements, nothing to worry about. Discharge of noxious liquid substances are strictly prohibited in polar waters. Shipboard marine pollution emergency plan must be present for ships as per Marpol Annex 2. If you remember, ships carrying noxious liquid substances are divided into three categories mainly. They are known as type 1, 2, 3, and their constructional requirement is also different. They will be differentiated on the basis of gap present in the width from the tank as well as from the bottom shell to the bottom side of tank shell. So these differences will be there. Polar Code tells us that only type 3 chemical carrier vessel is approved by administration to operate in polar waters for carrying noxious liquid substances. Type 1 and 2, they will usually, which are built to carry much dangerous noxious liquid substances, so they are banning those or preventing those. Chapter 3, Prevention of Pollution by Harmful Substances Carried by Sea in Packaged Form. There are no specific requirements mentioned under this chapter in Polar Code, but ships follow Marpol Annex 3 rules. Okay, so as we move on to the next chapter, I'm skipping this because there is no other additional requirement. We just have to follow the Marpol requirements. Please note that whatever we are discussing right now is just an add-on to Marpol requirements. Ships must follow Marpol requirements, but Polar Code is basically an add-on for Marpol requirements. Ships sailing in polar waters, first they have to follow Marpol requirements. Under this, Polar Code requirements are also required for those. Chapter 4, Prevention of Pollution by Sewage from Ships. So before diving into this topic, please understand these two definitions of ice, because the entire sewage discharge requirement in polar region is based on these two definitions. Okay, number one, ice shelf. Ice shelf means a floating ice sheet which has a thickness between 2 meter to 50 meter above the sea level. Number two, fast ice. Fast ice means ice that forms and remains fast along the coast which is attached to the shore. Look at these two pictures for the differences between the ice shelf and a fast ice. So now let us move on to the sewage discharge criteria in polar regions. So this is a bit important topic. Please listen carefully, okay? When ships discharge sewage in polar waters, they must note that the area in which the ships are present must have less than 1/10 of the sea ice present. If the ice concentration exceeds 1/10 of the sea ice, then discharge is completely prohibited. You will get to know about the ice concentration at your present location or the location where you want to discharge your sewage from the meteorological or Navtex printings which you will receive on ships, okay? The ships must only discharge commuted or disinfected sewage as per Marpol Annex 4 rules at a distance of more than 3 nautical miles from any ice shelf or fast ice. The ships must discharge sewage that is not commuted or disinfected as per Marpol Annex 4 rules at a distance of more than 12 nautical miles from any ice shelf or fast ice. So you understood which is commuted or disinfected, that is from 3 miles. Which is not commuted or not disinfected, that is from 12 miles. In normal Marpol sewage discharge requirements, if you see, they will consider from the nearest land. But in this, they are considering from the nearest ice shelf or fast ice. So that is the major difference in this. That's why I said, ki understand this first two definitions regarding ice shelf and fast ice. The ship must have an approved sewage treatment plant certified by the administration. Discharge of sewage into sea is prohibited from category A and B ships constructed on or after 1st January 2017. Okay, moving on. Chapter 5, Prevention of Pollution by Garbage from Ships. Discharge of animal carcass is strictly prohibited in polar waters. Food waste shall not be discharged on top of ice or onto ice. Discharge of food waste into the sea is permitted when ship is far from ice concentration areas, the distance from the ice concentration area being not less than 12 nautical miles. Food waste must be ground so that they can pass through a screen with openings of no larger than 25 mm. Now finished with food waste discharge criteria, but let us move on to the cargo residues discharge criteria. Cargo residues are cleaning agents which cannot be unloaded, but they are also required to discharge while the ship is en route, only if these following conditions are satisfied. The residues or cleaning agents used for hold washing should not be harmful to the marine environment. The port of departure and arrival both must be within the polar waters. If no proper reception facilities are available at these ports, the discharge must be done 12 nautical miles away from the areas of ice concentration and from the nearest land. Chapter 6, Pollution of Air by Ships. The information and guidelines in this chapter is similar to the Marpol Annex 6. Note that as of now, there are no special regulations for polar regions which have been introduced in regard of air pollution. So that's why we are skipping this chapter, and obviously we have come to the end of this video. I hope you have found my video interesting and easier for you to understand. If you have any doubts or queries, please comment below and like my video, subscribe to my channel for more content and updates. Thank you so much guys. All the best for your exams.